tan, really, because he's apparently spent a lot of time outside. So let's see if he's going to be pasty white or very tanned like myself. So I have a very nautical theme today. Hello.
Hi Max, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Very nice of you to join. I'm just, hang on. I was sitting on a cushion. Forget that.
You're just adjusting yourself.
Yes, I was just adjusting myself. Thank you. See, I put on something very sea-like today because
Oh,
to go with the theme of what we're going to be talking about. But
I put something more musician-like on.
oh, have you?
Okay, a black top.
You could have been in your tails or something. Dress up, really dress up for the occasion. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, really good. I love this weather.
Oh, you've been out in the garden, I know.
I have.
So, but I was just saying that I know you through the fact that you are a horn player.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much been your career, I guess, since you left music college.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, that was all I ever wanted to do. But I can remember thinking early on that I saw that this musician's life had a shelf life for me, but I didn't know what else I would do. But I did know that it perhaps wasn't going to be forever. But it was, yeah. And I think, like all of us who went to music college and had ambition, you keep fighting for what you want. And then when you've got what you want, you've got to keep fighting, but there's nothing more to fight for. That was very much what I felt. I'd certainly reached my ceiling in the music business. I'd never had a job. I always wanted a job, but actually I would never have kept a job in an orchestra.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I probably would have been asked to leave or been sacked because
too many people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain element of my personality that has been described as maverick, perhaps, or I go against the grain. I will certainly say what I think, and some people like that, and a lot of people I think don't like it as well. But looking back now, I had loads of trials for jobs, and I always knew at the time it wasn't my playing ability. A few times it might have been. I know. I remember one trial where, yeah, absolutely, there's no way I would ever have got that job after a disastrous Track 5. Yeah, I was actually Track 5 on first horn. It really wasn't very good at all. But you know, this stuff happens. But so I always knew that it wasn't in my playing, but I couldn't understand it at the time. Of course, I look back now and I think I just don't belong in employment. I need to be my own boss and follow my own instincts, I think. And
in an orchestra, there is an element of conformity, of course, of which I'm not brilliantly great at conforming.
Really?
But there is, yes, it's not one. Well, I like to think that it will take a lot of personalities, but you cannot really just be your own person and at risk of offending people who you may be sitting next to
for the
next 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
So, but you had a fantastic freelance career.
Oh, it was the best. I still do some work. I don't do much. In fact, I only really work with the LSO every now and again. But everybody else, it's a funny thing because I think two things. People, when they see you doing something else, and I was never secretive about the fact that I was doing other things, but when they see you doing something else, I think there's an element of jealousy, which is crazy, absolutely crazy, because people with fantastic careers, they see you doing something else, and I think they are envious, maybe rather than jealous, of the fact that you are branching out. And then the automatic thing is they just then think that you've given up. So all the orchestras, there was I think 2012 was the absolute high point in my career for me, and I was just getting all the best work and doing all the really brilliant things, working with all the orchestras that I ever wanted to work with, LPO, LSO, John Wilson Orchestra. I could go on, just doing really terrific things, and with stuff that I still am very proud that I did. Mm-hmm. But then I suddenly realised, where am I going now? What's next? You know, I'm certainly at the highest point that I can get to. By no means the top of the business, nowhere near. And other freelancers, far better players than me. Mm-hmm. And so I think I decided that rather than either stay at that level and continue at that level, which is nigh on impossible as you get older, certainly in the freelance career. Yeah. And I didn't want to slide down the other side. I saw so many people do that. So I just kind of thought, right, well, I think it's time to just do something else. And,
Yeah, because it's tough, isn't it, as a musician? I mean, I always wanted the security of being in an orchestra, and the sort of the idea that you feel like you belong somewhere, and if you're in a bad mood, it doesn't matter that much and stuff. But as a freelancer, and I only freelanced for a couple of years before I got my job in the LSO, that you do have to be really careful about, say, I was always very aware of wanting to be that person everyone liked being around, because you're always aware that you want to be booked again, and you don't know these people, or you might not see these people for ages. But yes, it's difficult because new young people come in. It's it's a circle. Your own playing, of course, is not going to stay at an amazing peak forever.
No.
And I know you said about people being envious, and I think there is. I think when people see that you're able to have other interests and turn them into something else, it does make people sort of think like, gosh, where did you have the time to do all that? Yeah.
The other thing is with freelancing, like I said, the job wasn't for me. Being a member of an orchestra, as much as I wanted it, I did want it when I was younger. As much as that wasn't for me, freelancing is not for everybody. And I can remember, actually, it was my ex-wife, funnily enough. She had a job in an orchestra, and I remember her saying she could just not cope with my life, my freelance life. It was just a crazy thing. Equally, I couldn't cope with what she was doing, and so it's very much horses for courses in this business, I think.
Yeah.
And the freelance thing of, I think what really got to me in the end was, I was always the bottom of the food chain, and that sounds like a negative, and I don't mean it as a negative, because although I was doing all the best work, it was you turn up to work, you sit there. No, don't sit there. Sit here. Play this part. Can you play louder, quieter, fast? And I just thought, there's none of my personality allowed in what I'm doing. There's something that sort of got to me, that maybe I was a bit more of a leader, that I wanted to be more in charge of what I was doing. Maybe I should have done more practice at college, and that would have happened. Who knows? Who knows?
You'd have probably. There are all manner of frustrations that we know.
Yeah.
Being in an orchestra, whether you're like a humble tutti player like myself, and maybe you, not that I've ever dreamed that, because I just like being a small part of the big thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if you're a concert master, you've got your own gripes.
Gosh, for sure, for sure. I mean, absolutely. It's a wacky world, actually. It's a very bizarre world, and we talked about the non-conformists. Well, I think maybe 20, maybe 30 years ago, you could be a non-conformist in this business, and you could really let your personality come out. I mean, there are some hilarious stories of people mucking about on the job. Amazing stories. But nowadays, you can't do it.
There's stuff I heard about, in the 80s in the LSO.
Oh, yeah.
Playing La Mer, kicking a football through the violin section, making the most tremendous racket, and people standing up and going and talking to a friend in another section and stuff. And I'm reading this book, Bow to Baton, which was given to me by a Twitter follower. And it's about, I don't know if you ever did a New Year's concert with John Georgiadis.
I did. The first concert I did with the LSO, actually, when I was at Guildford.
Really, it's the only one I did. It was probably around the same time.
1996 it was.
God, no, I did one it must have been around 2000, 2001. And it was the last one. They stopped after that. But it charts his rise from, a young boy, then he becomes a leader of the LSO and becomes a conductor. But it's the stories of what people used to get up to, or the way they would speak to even the conductors.
Oh, the conductors, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's it's fascinating. I'm just like, I cannot imagine anybody piping up like that at all anymore. Which is a sort of a shame, because I think musicians have such huge personalities.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
It's not that natural for us to be sort of like
Absolutely. Repressed. We are repressed. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, repressed people. So,
Yeah.
So you decided that this was not for you full time.
Well, no, I didn't actually. I haven't decided anything. Nothing I've done has been planned. It's all just kind of happened. But there were certain pivotal points at which I knew something had to change. I mean, 2012. I mean, it's all to do with me making silly choices or doing silly things. Really, I remember in 2012, I was a volunteer for the Olympics. So I was a games maker for the Olympics, and I was as a driver. So I had the uniform, you know, and I drove one of the Olympic BMWs around London, which I loved. And I met people there that I'd never met before in terms of, you know, and I suddenly thought, oh, this is interesting. There's more people. I really like these people. They're very different people. Coupled with, somebody gave me a book for my birthday that year, which was Paulo Coelho. What's the book called? Oh, no, it's not Paulo Coelho. It was The Alchemist. It was The Alchemist book. That might be Paulo Coelho. I can't remember.
Oh, but I remember people talked about it. It was quite a big thing.
Yeah, a really amazing book. Yeah, and so this girl, actually, this girl I've been on a few dates with, and she was a multimillionaire. I mean, could have been a very different story if only I fancied her, but I really didn't. But so she gave me this book. She gave me this book, which I read, and that really sort of, I thought, wow, that's interesting. And then somebody else gave me a book, which was by Sir Ken Robinson, which was about finding what puts you in your element and making that into your living, into what you do for it. So these sort of key things. So on top of the Olympic thing, I was doing some work with another orchestra. You might know this story, actually. And I'd done all the sessions with the LSO for all of the closing ceremony, opening ceremony music. And there was one last session, and there was a clash. I couldn't do the session with the LSO, and I was working with another orchestra. And I was so pissed off. I thought, oh my God, I want to finish off. I'm being a games maker. So I did what, of course, nobody else has ever done in this business, and that is I called in sick to the other orchestra.
I don't think I'm the only one. I think.
Well, funnily enough, I wasn't the only one at that time either. Somebody else did the same thing, and I covered my tracks, but the other person didn't cover their tracks particularly well, and so I ended up getting found out. I mean, you tell lies, you get found out. That's a pretty standard rule. Anyway, the orchestra severely punished me, like a 2-year ban. And I'd worked with this orchestra for 12 years or something. And I was really upset by the way that it was handled. And I really thought, that's what really made me think, what am I doing in my life? What am I doing? For a start, calling in sick. Why am I doing that? Why have I been treated like this? And then, of course, there's 2 other books that I read. It all kind of, and I just thought, but the other thing, I was quite low emotionally. I got divorced a few years earlier, and I'd just been treading water through life and really not in a great place. And I just thought, I need to get away. I need some time off. And I debated, do I go traveling? Do I just go and do, something completely different? And in the end, I decided I want to get a qualification and not waste this 6 months. And I'd always wanted to sail. I'd never really sailed before. So I found a course. It was 6 months long. I rented my house out, and I just went and did it. And that was January to June in 2013. And there was no planning involved at all. And people on this course who were a lot younger than me, I was probably 36, maybe at the time, something like that. They're sort of saying, oh, do you want to go and work on super yachts? I said, no, not really. I'm a French horn player. I just going to go back to work. I was just going to go back into the music business. So I finished that course, and I loved it. I had a great time, really, really brilliant. I met some fantastic people who I'm still in touch with. And so that was almost the start of a new career, because, of course, when you come back, that 6 months away was basically running away from issues in my life that I hadn't ever dealt with. So when I came back, the issues were still there. They were all sitting there. In fact, they'd almost grown a little bit since I went away. So it was then that I decided, right, I've got to really sort myself out. And in the following 6 months, I really went to the bottom. You know, I really had to sort my shit out, and I went straight to the bottom, and it was grim. It was really grim. I think there's one really low point when I had to decide, am I going to keep going with this life business, or am I going to end it? You know, it was really that bad. And of course, it was quite a quick answer. I knew, no, hang on a minute, this isn't right. So I need to make a go of it. And so I just adopted some new rules, and off I went with life, really. So I didn't plan it. I didn't plan any of the sailing at all. It just kind of happened.
It was just like, what do I I want to get qualification. I'll, give that a go.
Yeah.
At some point then, I remember you did a lot of things. I mean, I remember you doing a weather report from ski chalets. Or suddenly all this amazing food pictures were just coming of, oh, I'm a chef somewhere. And I was just like, what? Going on?
So, yeah, I mean, that was something else that just kind of happened. I think as musicians, we all like food. We're all into food. And I remember years ago working in the Philharmonia, the highlight of, some really horrific days, touring days, really grueling schedule. The highlight of the day was lunch or dinner. In the whole section.
Of the concert, you're sort of
you're
going to eat, sorry to say, but
yeah, of course, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And the horn players in the section at the time, Lawrence Davis and Jim Handy, Nigel Black. I mean, it was all about the food, really, and maybe a beer as well. But it was. So I gained a lot of food knowledge about eating, and also we used to talk about cooking on days off. We'd always be cooking something at home with our family, and we'd always talk about what we're eating and what we're planning. So the chef thing, when I just got to go back, when I came out of this sailing 6 months and I hit rock bottom, I adopted 4 rules, which they've become life rules for me, actually. And I was going to mention these at the end, but I'll mention them now because they were so pivotal in making things happen down the line. So the first one was, bearing in mind I was pretty much face down in the shit at the bottom of life. That was basically it. And I couldn't go any further. And I thought, I've got to turn myself face up. And sort of, I could visualize seeing a tunnel. It was a really long, high tunnel, and I could see a bit of light at the top of it. And I thought, I've got to start climbing. I've got to start getting myself out of this hole. And so I decided, right, I'm going to change my rules. And the first rule was only do things you love. Okay. Straightforward. Only spend time with people you like. So if I didn't like people, I was very quick to get rid of them. And I would actually just push people out of my life. I just didn't, I knew if they were drains, if they were taking my energy, I just got rid of them.
Toxic types of people.
Yeah. The next rule was take advantage of every opportunity. So, and that one has really brought things to fruition for me. And then the final one was turn every negative into an opportunity. So any negative became an opportunity, which I would then take advantage of, very basically. So the chefing came because I was in the French Alps in, I think it was December 2014. So this was a year after the wheels had fallen off, effectively. And I was staying with some friends. And it was 3 weeks over Christmas, Christmas week and 2 weeks after that, because I had nothing else to do. So I thought, well, I might as well just stay there. So I was staying with some friends. And somebody had to cook Christmas dinner, and there was 20 of us, waifs and strays, pretty much. So I just said, well, I'll cook. I'm really happy cooking for loads of people, no problem. So I went shopping, got all the stuff, and I cooked Christmas dinner for 20 people, and it was an absolute feast. A real table groaner of just everything. It was terrific. And then on the Boxing Day, I got a call from one of the people that came for dinner, saying, he said, "Tim, you're a chef, aren't you?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm a French horn player." And he said, "No, you're definitely a chef." I'm thinking, no, I'm not a chef. I'm a French horn player. I'm thinking, why is he saying this? And he went on to say, he said, look, I book chefs and butlers for chalets in Courchevel, which is a very posh ski resort, and I've forgotten to book a chef this week. Can you do it? I said, no. No, I can't do that. He said, they're Russians, they're really nice, they'll be very easy. Just give them what they want to eat and you'll be fine. And basically he was stuck, you know. I was his last resort. Boxing Day, New Year week, to find a chef is nigh on impossible. So I was his last resort. And to his credit, he took a real punt on asking me that. And I was still saying no. And I spoke to another friend of mine who was there, and she said, I thought you had some rules about opportunity. And I suddenly thought, yes, actually, you're right. I have. Take advantage of every opportunity. So I rang this guy back, and he said to me straight away, he said, I forgot to tell you what the money is for the week. And I said, oh okay. He said, well, it's $2,000 for the week. So without a doubt, no problem. So I went and I did this chef work for the week. And that was basically the start of a new career, because I couldn't believe that I was doing it. I
think take yourself. I really hear those four your life sort of mantras, especially the whole idea of taking opportunities when they come. Because I sort of said to myself a few years ago that if something scared me, and I just thought, if someone asked me to do something and I just thought to myself, I can't do that, I'd be far too scared to do it. I had to just bloody do it, because chances are it will go really well and you'll have a great time and you've discovered something else about yourself. And if it sort of goes to pot, then you haven't really lost anything. And
no,
it's like, you know, maybe that your strength is not in something like that. So I think that is something that so many people don't ever push themselves out of a comfort zone in that way.
It's such a, you just said the magic words, comfort zone, actually. And I, in the teaching, I do some, I'm a yacht master instructor, so I teach people to sail yachts, competent crew, day skipper, coastal skipper, yacht master. And I use that a lot. And I say to people, if someone's going to park a boat in a strong tide and wind, for example, the first time they've done it, and I'll just say to them, if you put yourself out of your comfort zone, you're only guaranteed for success.
Yeah.
You're only guaranteed, and that success might be that you don't want to do it again. You know you don't want to do it again, but that's a learning. You're only guaranteed for success, and I think that is. You just said exactly that, and I mean, bravo to you for taking that rule, because many people live their life in a sort of pocket like this without branching out of the comfortable area.
It's quite easy to do that, especially with. I mean, I suppose the same for you. A bit like me, you get I got a job very early on, or you know what you're going to do with your life. You're like, I'm a violinist in an orchestra. I've got a job in my early 20s, and it's sort of going along nicely. And then, you know, you sort of just get so used to that life and that way, and you have no. And the first time someone said, "Oh, we need you to do an online masterclass for YouTube." This is going back quite a few years now, and I was like, no. You've got to ask somebody else. and then I just thought, oh, why can't, I should try and do something like this. Or even things like taking a coaching or a sectional at, say, Guildhall or the Academy. The first time someone asked me to do it, I thought, oh, what could I possibly teach them? And then somebody said to me, you've been in the LSO for almost years. Of course you know what you're doing, and I thought, well, I should just do it, because if it's a disaster and I really feel uncomfortable, then I just won't do it again. But actually, I've found that, and it's something in the last year or two, I realised I actually really enjoy, talking to students and just having something to do with giving something back or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would never have known, because my first reaction was always like, well, I can't do that because I'm too scared and I'll be crap. Because I think there's also that element of, is it imposter syndrome?
I've just got imposter syndrome, yeah.
You just think, like, I don't know.
And we all suffer with that. As musicians, we all suffer with imposter syndrome, actually.
Yes, I think it's quite common. Well, it's either imposter syndrome or the syndrome where you think You're way better than your
Yeah, yeah.
you know, not naming names, but definitely imposter syndrome, I think is something that, yeah, you just, because you've just been doing something for so long, and you can just, you know, can go on stage at the bar, can
Yeah.
do all that stuff with my eyes closed. But the moment somebody says, oh, well, can you actually, you know, do something like this, or could you present something live on the radio and things like that, and suddenly go, oh no, I can't do that. But actually,
You can.
by just stepping out and doing it,
Yeah.
and I think it helps, it certainly massively helped my confidence, if you like, and I'm sure with you as well. And as you said, you must feel like you have this, what you didn't have in an orchestra was your own sense of being able to lead a team.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or take control of stuff, whereas you must have that now.
Oh, yeah, very, very much so. Actually, there's quite a funny thing happened recently, back in February, actually. And that was, I got booked for a session. It was just a kind of something and nothing session at Abbey Road. And so that's February. And the previous time I played my horn was in December, which was Shostakovich 7, I think, with the LSO in Germany. And so I hadn't played it much. I mean, I've got a routine now. So a week before, I can pick my horn up, and by a week later, I've got chops and I can play. I might not have endless stamina, but I've got chops good enough to play to a decent level. So I was quite excited about this session. I thought, you know, and it was a sampling session or something. There's no tunes. It was just, you know, it was dull. It was so dull. And I can imagine every other musician booked for that will be thinking, oh, for God's sake. But I was really excited about it. I was really, really looking forward to it, because that's what it is now. If I get booked to play the horn, I get excited about it, like I used to as a music college student. So I got in the car and I drove up from Brighton to Abbey Road. I got stuck on the A40 coming into. I had loads of time, but we didn't move, and and I think the session was 1 till 4 or something. And 5 to 1, I was still on the A40, and so I texted the fixer. And I said, look, sat nav says 5 minutes, but we're stationary. And I've been here for 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And she said, look, don't worry. You know, we can wait. We can hold the session. I think, wow, okay.
Pressure.
Well, yeah, exactly. So eventually I got there, and she got me a parking space. So I drove straight in the gate, security guard, closed the gates. He said, go to the bottom entrance, I'll let you in. So I walked in. And there was 4 horns and 1 tuba. That was all it was in the session. And so I thought, oh, crikey, okay. And not only that, the only empty seat was first horn.
Serves you right for being late.
And I went into panic.
Oh no!
Because I just thought, I can't do this. And I even said to the guys, look, can somebody else? And they all said, and these are really, you know, seasoned professionals. They said, no. You have to do it. So I sort of went, yeah, okay, yeah, fine. And I sat down, I got my horn out, and I'm thinking, I need a tactic here. I need a plan. And all I did was pretend that I was captaining a boat. So I put that confidence
into what you were doing.
Into what I was doing, yeah. And I just led. And I just led like I was a captain. I mean, I think I probably played the most wrong notes in the section, but you know, I sat there and I managed to get through it by just taking that confidence. And so when you said about the leading thing, it's a mindset. It's totally a mindset. And so if you were to do some presenting, you can take on that mindset of doing what you're doing. And I'm quite convinced that we can do anything. Actually, as human beings, that we are capable of anything.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it, that you never really think about. I remember saying to someone, it was actually at a National Youth Orchestra reunion in a pub a few years ago, and I was chatting to Hannah Perrone, a violinist I was quite scared of at the time, and I said something like, we were all talking about, you know, that we're musicians now and we've all fallen into doing music and this is all great, and I said something like, well, it's lucky because I wouldn't ever be able to do anything else. I wouldn't ever get a job doing anything else. I haven't got any other sort of skills. And she was just like, what are you talking about? And she just like sort of launched into me about that, you know, being a musician, you know, you've got massive organizational skills because having to be places, a massive amount of, I mean, I've noticed that musicians can just concentrate so much more than an average person, because I guess we're just, you know, the years of having to just be alone and just really focus on, you know, just getting the muscle memory, the skill to play. And she was just like, all these, you know, skills are things that you could easily put into practice with something else if you ever want to. And I've never really thought about that, because all I've ever thought was, well, I can play the violin, and that's sort of like, that's it. I mean, not, I'm very happy playing the violin, but it is interesting how, you know, things can just segue into other aspects of life. And definitely, you showing that you can lead that horn section.
Like I was sailing a yacht. I know. It's bonkers, isn't it? But what was interesting is that, and this whole thing of transferable skills, in fact, I'm doing another podcast next week, I think, for, I think it's called The Freelance Musician, about transferable skills. Because the skills that we have, well, I think any profession has a set of skills, and the skills that we have as musicians, we've really, really worked hard to fine tune. And you mentioned organization. Well, communication is another one, really key skill that we have. Another one being working under pressure, attention to detail. They're really, really key things. And actually, people have said to me, people wherever, on a boat or in the Alps or whatever, you know, whatever I'm doing, they said, "Oh my God, you're so extraordinarily talented." And I say, honestly, I'm really not. I've just got one set of skills, and that set of skills, I have worked extremely hard to get those skills where they are. But all I do is pick the skills up and put them onto something else. You've got to have enthusiasm for the something else, but it's the same skills. So sailing a yacht, it's the same skills as a musician. Cooking, chefing, it's the same skills as a musician. Funnily enough, what I've been doing today, and I never ever thought this would happen, landscape gardening. Who knew?
So is that something, because obviously, you know, you're, as a musician, for me, you know, the moment we came into lockdown, obviously that means no concerts. We're not salaried, so it means, you know, you're not at work, you're not, you know, there's no salary there. For you, you can't go sailing, and there's no, obviously, sessions or concerts to do. So that's something that you decided to put yourself out there.
And again, it happened by accident. So I've not earned any money since February, apart from the last week. And I've got no government help at all. I think you too slipped through the gaps and all that kind of stuff. My two sailing businesses would normally be, well, I should have been actually in Greece right now sailing. So my summer would have been out sailing with the two businesses, Bespoke Sailing Holidays and Hornblower Sailing Holidays. The chefing is only in the winter, so that's not happening. Property developing, I do a little bit of that. That kind of is still going on, but all that is me shelling money out. That's not earning me any money.
Yes, that's
so I was kind of into, wow, well, what am I going to do? I've got savings, obviously, and you know, I'm not going to sink. I'm not, you know, it's not that bad. But I really started to panic, and I was just talking to a friend of mine who's got a first aid business, and of course his business is doing extremely well. And I said, "Look, I'm twiddling my thumbs. Do you need a van driver? You know, whatever. What do you need? I'll come and work in your office, whatever." And he said, "No, I don't need anybody, but my mum needs her garden doing." So I thought, well, I mean, yeah, I've always loved